veterans-radio.com.
Okay, Tuesday edition of the After Show. Got Week of Justice with you a week over here on the East Coast.
And justice on the West Coast of the contiguous United States of America. It is Red Sky at Morning Tuesdays. Sailor, take warning. There's a storm a-brewing.
Heck yeah.
What? There's a storm a-brewing all the time now. Oh, my God.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
But how are you doing otherwise?
Not bad. It is 79 degrees going up to about 81, 82, 83 right in there. So not a bad day out there. I think I'm going to trim the hedges today. That'd be my project for the day.
There you go.
Reminder to get in the chat. Just go to netrootsradio.com. Scroll down the bottom of the page, and on the right-hand side of the bottom of the page, there is a link to the chat. So click that. Join us there.
And, of course, I say this every day. I apologize. It's almost like a broken record. But it's on the script, okay? So there.
Yeah.
Show must go on. To the leftish of the chat room link are the donate, contribute buttons, and thank you. And this is sincerely, from the heart. I appreciate your generosity on that.
Yeah.
Times are tough, I know, and it's very generous of you to, keep Resistance Radio, as we know it, going.
Absolutely.
Beaming 24/7. All right, thank you for that. Okay, after show pods can also be had by way of the raw data file shortly after the end of the show. That's on Spreaker, and Wink will post that. And then later, he'll clean that up for the perfected daily file, the PDF, and that will come out later. And he'll post that on Podbean, iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, etc., etc., etc. Here along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon, it is currently 56 degrees. We will be going to 91. Tonight we will ostensibly be in the mid-50s. I think it could be a little warmer than that, but that's a good range. And let's see, it looks like we will be holding steady through the weekend, upper 80s, low 90s, and then looks like by Sunday we will be in the upper 90s. Because why not? Winds today will be out of the west-northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. And tonight, our usual winds out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Well, that was Rogue River weather, but weather around the world, from around the world, is brought to you by People's Weather Stations that they purchased, and they put it in their backyards or their penthouse suites, depending on where they are in the world, around the world. Damn right. Okay, London is now 81 and clear. Paris is, they're 80 and clear. They are in a weather advisory. This is the time of year for extremely booming thunderstorms. Now, you thought, if you've ever been there, that you heard and experienced a lightning and thunderstorm like none other when you were in the Rockies or maybe Yosemite. No, you haven't ever experienced a lightning storm and a thunderstorm until you've been in Paris. Whew.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. No wonder they became imperial colonialists. Let's get out of here. This is scary.
Yeah.
Branch out. Rome is 83 and clear. Kiev is 81 and clear. Kabul is 85 and mostly cloudy. Oh, I think that the drones still have the infrared thing to get through the clouds, but they really like a clear day. So, wedding parties show up better that way, of course.
Absolutely.
All right. Hong Kong is 79 and raining. Tokyo is 80 and partly cloudy. Sydney, Australia is 56 and clear. They're in their winter, And San Francisco is 53, mostly cloudy. And New York is 86 and clear. Okay. Your big town in New York was raining the other day, Wink.
Yeah. Yep.
Any rain forecast for you coming up?
This afternoon, I guess they're calling for it later today. But,
okay.
Trying to get the hedges done between now and then, hopefully.
There you go. There's going to be some hurricanes, and they're going to be making their way up. Yep. You know that. Yep. They do that all the time now. Used to be a rarity, but now it's almost every season you'll get a hurricane or two. Or what do they call it when it's like maybe just a tropical depression?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tropical depression for me is not having enough Midori. Come on.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's tropical drinks without Midori. It's you need that melon thing going on. Just takes the edge off. It surely does. Well, for now, we still have health care, Wink. For now.
Yeah.
Now that says something. I got to tell you, they've tried everything, They've tried the trebuchet. They've tried mortar rounds. They've done everything they can think of. They've even tried to basically undermine the underpinnings, the very foundation of it, and they can't do it because it's just too strong. And Trump's on Twitter today. It's really fun to watch the President of the United States learn about civics on the job. Doesn't this guy even know about how the Senate and Congress works? No, he doesn't. Someone has to tell him. And apparently he's mad at Manafort, or had gotten mad at Manafort, because according to a new book out, he said, do you think I'm a baby, a little baby, Paul? Huh? You think you can only communicate to me through the TV? I'm just a little baby, huh? And if I was Manafort, I'd say, well, yeah.
Indeed.
Well, I guess he's figuring out that, the way the Senate works is, there's some amendments and, got to hand it to Obama. You need 60 for that, 51 for this, another 60 for that, maybe 51 for this. And he's just finding this out? What an idiot. Well, that's okay. He got to sit in a fire truck yesterday, Wink, again.
Yeah.
Purportedly, Vice President Cuck Pence held the door open for him, and Trump got up on the step and started climbing into the cab saying, "Where's the fire? I'll put it out." Well, the fire is in your pants, buddy, and sitting on it's not going to be putting it out. Have fun.
Yeah.
Boy. God. Just, I forgot. We really need to do this as a feature. What was a similar scandal on this date during, Obama's first term, just go how many days it was. We're on July 18th. What happened on July 18th,
right,
of 2008, right?
Yep.
2000, whichever.
Yep.
And go from there. Say, so I think we're getting into the tan suit scandal. Obama was pilloried for wearing. Remember that? He wore a tan suit, and that was like the most outrageous thing that a president of the United States could ever do. Even like more of a transgression than even Watergate.
Indeed.
Yes. And the reason for that is because, according to them, everybody was doing what Nixon did. Right. So that made it okay. But no president had ever worn a tan suit. And then there were pictures of, like, Truman wearing a tan suit. But, that was different. He was white. Didn't show up as much.
Exactly.
Oh, my God. Well, these are the issues we are attending to today. We shall not dally. We have Chris Reeves visiting with us today, and he is a busy person.
Yep.
All right. Republican on Republican violence breaks out in the wake of the humiliating Trump care collapse. Or as I like to say, for all of you Pelosi haters out there who don't care about vote counting, and I'm not talking about votes in an election. I'm talking about whipping votes for a caucus. How do you like her now? Huh? Especially with McConnell. I mean, I thought McConnell was supposed to be like, the big vote getter.
Right.
Well, there you go. Sadly, in a major blow to privacy advocates, the Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in San Francisco, of course, upheld a lower court ruling that the FBI can secretly issue surveillance orders for customer data. Why not? Now, maybe I understand it. Because if I was in the FBI and I was going to be using like disaster capitalism or the shock doctrine, be able to advance whatever it was, and I could glom on to something that might actually be happening in serious, but I can stoke fear like, hey, there's some nuclear bombs blowing up. Want to buy a bomb shelter in a company that I have invested in?
Yeah.
Or to make matters worse, like back in the day when city councilmen and county commissioners zoned so that you must and mandated that you must have a bomb shelter, and they had, they were the bomb shelter company. We build them. And you got to buy it. Pay up. Because if you don't, there's going to be a lot of people in the neighborhood, and you might be one of them trying to get into your neighbor's bomb shelter, and you can't have that, so here, have a bunch of guns too. We sell them. Right out the back of our trucks. Well, I guess the FBI could say, well, we're on the hot trail of some Russian hackers, say. Russian spies. I mean, this could get out of hand. These are the national security letters that they issue, and when you're under investigation, you don't even get to know. But I guess if you're a mobster in the Sicilian mob, do we ever get upset when, they're in they being the FBI, they're in like the really decrepit tenement housing across the street from the club, the men's club down below, right? And they're listening in on their conversations and stuff. Oh, boy. Oh, and a Texas wildlife refuge that is home to 400 species of birds, 450 types of plants, the highly endangered ocelot, and half of the butterfly species found in all of North America will be raised to build the first section of Trump's Vanity Wonder Wall. The one that's so transparent you can see, 180-pound bags of drugs being thrown over it. I guess you didn't hear about that one. He went on this rant that well, we have to make the wall transparent. We have to have like windows or like something, because do you know how dangerous it is? You're on the other side, on our side of the fence, and suddenly a 180-pound bag of drugs comes flying over and hits you on the head. There's a workman's comp claim there. Can't have that. Got to keep costs down.
Exactly.
What an idiot. Oh, yes, but of course, then we are brought back down to earth with Chris Reeves, always affectionately known as Tom Servo 433, for a discussion on Kris Kobach lying to suppress the vote. Yeah. He lost a court case, and he went and told his Kansans, you better bring the stuff I said to begin with. Who cares about what those courts say? I'm the sheriff here. Oh, a leaked email shows Kris Kobach has been working with the Trump team to gut the National Voter Registration Act since the day after the election. Kind of makes you wonder where Trump got his idea that all those millions and millions of illegal voters voting for Hillary, otherwise I would have won the popular vote. Yeah! It takes 51 votes for some amendments and 60 for others in the Healthcare Act. Who knew? It's so complex. And Republican Senator Jerry Moran is a no on the American Health, the ACHA, because he didn't want to explain to Kansans a vote that would close more rural hospitals. Well, who wants to explain a vote that would do that? All that, plus the Connect, Unite, Act, Daily Coast community calendar, and more on the after show with that ever so fine fellow over there on the East Coast. His name is Wink, and this guy over here on the West Coast, my name is Justice, and we do this 5 days a week for an hour-ish. In this particular, specific, and always peculiar tear in the fabric of space-time, because who loves you, baby?
Exactly.
Well, we shouldn't dally. I should get in on this. These stories aren't terribly long, but you know me, I'll just go off on them. No more big news about the flat earther guy. I mean, there's, God, I will say we did sort of get into it over Sandy Hook. Now, understand, less than 20 miles away is Roseburg, and that's where they had that was the junior college that got all shot up, Umpqua Community College. And of course, that county and town is run by Oath Keepers, sheriffs, and police captains who believe that Sandy Hook is a hoax. And yet, here is this violence perpetrated in their own town, and it makes a lot of people wonder, well, maybe Sandy Hook isn't a hoax. Maybe it's real. Look what happened here, right? So, this is, once again, no amount of facts. I mean, our bar is set so exceedingly high. I mean, if you have, a comma in the wrong position, it totally destroys your whole argument, right? But all they have to do is put up a YouTube video that says, well, it's a hoax, right? So, invoking Greg Dworkin, any number of things didn't matter. I mean, Greg Dworkin apparently has been brainwashed, into believing that he operated on these kids. I don't know. It's just so amazing to me. Well, there's that. But, when cognitive dissonance sets in, this is what happens. Republican on Republican violence. It's kind of fun to watch them eat their own, Because that's what we're accused of doing all the time. And we do it really well, but I don't know. We survive it. That's what we are. Them, they're breaking the 11th commandment. Thou shalt not speak ill of a fellow Republican.
Right.
This is an article by Brad Reed out of Raw Story. The Senate's Trump Care bill finally went down in flames on Monday evening, and the recriminations have begun. The Atlantic's Molly Ball reports that the House and Senate are both pointing fingers at one another over the latest major setback in the party's effort to repeal and replace Obamacare, and one GOP staffer tells the reporter that the feud amounts to Republican on Republican violence. Yes, sir. One Republican congressman told Ball that there was increasing frustration that the party couldn't get any major piece of legislation passed, despite the fact that it controls all the major levels of power in Washington. And I also might add, when they talk about the major levels of power, they got the White House, they got the Senate, they got the House of Representatives, they've got all the regulatory agencies, they've got the State Department. Of course, if they have the president, they have the State Department, they have all that. They have the courts. They even got their guy on the Supreme Court. They still can't do it. And they're trying to figure out why. Didn't they have at least 7 years to figure this out, Wink?
Yeah, they did.
Didn't they submit and I think pretty much pass 61 some odd bills? And of course, if you hear it from Trump, the reason those failed is because Republicans were in the minority. Can you believe the idiocy of this guy? What is he talking about? Yeah, he's all whining like 8 Democrats can hold up my dictatorial powers. How is that possible? It's a tragedy, a travesty. I'm serious. He thinks that he has dictatorial powers. Okay. All right. We're in charge, right? The Republican asked rhetorically. Yeah, that would be rhetorical. We have the House, the Senate, the White House, and he forgets the courts, the lobbyists, the Mercers. We got the data, manipulation. Yeah. We got everything.
The court, everything. Yeah.
For some reason, the third of the population, which is our rabid base, somehow isn't enough to overcome the other 2/3 of the rational human beings on this continent. Or at least, this nation, this part of this continent.
Yeah.
Think of that for a moment. Trump's approval rating is at 29%, 30%. It's always going to be, we've talked about this how many times? There's always going to be a third of the population that are way off the deep end. That's why they're called dead enders. And you can't get rid of them. They're always going to be there. And Trump is banking that he can energize that amount enough and suppress the other 2/3 in some fashion. Divide and conquer, suppress, obfuscate. Oh, well, Election Day is actually going to be on a Thursday this year, not Tuesday. Everybody knows that. And some people will believe it. Look at Colorado. People are unregistering to vote. Democrats, Wink.
Yeah. Yep.
Because Trump is coming after their data. And you can see why. People who complained about it and rode into the White House were doxxed by the White House. Wow. Now, I gotta say, I know that it's probably, belaboring a point, but if you look at the same tactics that Putin used, is kind of like what this guy's doing. Things are a little bit different here because, we vote differently. But regardless, the manipulation of the votes, the denigration of long-held institutions and beliefs, all of it. And if that doesn't work, you kill a few people. I don't think that's been happening here. But character assassination, destroying people's careers, that's the kind of violence that we do regularly, and it's been historical in our politics. In fact, that's somewhat made the Great Experiment better than all others because we didn't actually kill people when we destroyed them. Because we're a democracy.
Heck yeah.
And I also love it. This Republican congressman says they're a big tent party. When I think of a big tent, I don't really think of the Republicans. Unless you're thinking of one of those evangelical Pentecostal tent revival meetings out past the old drive-in. They set it up in the field and people come up and, they, dance with snakes and talk in tongues and somebody heals somebody who doesn't have anything wrong with them, but they think, but now they think that they're healed.
Yeah. Yep.
Maybe he means that by big tent. Because some of those are pretty big tents. You can fit, I don't know, I've seen them hold, several hundred people.
Absolutely.
That's a big tent.
Yep.
Pack that up. I mean, that's a lot of work. It is. All right. So the Ninth Circuit, which is that liberal Ninth Circuit, by the way, Wink.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
Still, it's hanging in there. Yep.
Damn. Well, it's liberal only because it's in San Francisco. All right.
Pretty much, yeah. Yep.
People not knowing anything. That always cracks me up when people say like Dianne Feinstein is some raging liberal. I mean, bless her heart. Thank God, she caucuses with us and is on our side about so many issues. But in that area, she's not really considered a flaming liberal.
Right.
Of course, the flaming liberals, they're so I don't know. I wouldn't call them flaming liberals. They're in a spectrum of light that you need special glasses to see. This is an article out of Reuters. And Dustin Volz is the reporter. David Gregorio is the editor. A unanimous 3-judge panel on the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in San Francisco sided with a lower court ruling and finding that rules permitting the FBI to send national security letters under gag orders are appropriate and do not violate the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution's free speech protections. The part that you're supposed to be made aware of your crime. That little part. I don't know. Current distribution firm or content distribution firm Cloudflare and phone network operator Credo Mobile. We love Credo. Had sued the government in order to notify customers of 5 NSLs received between 2011 and 2013. Andrew Crocker, an attorney for the Electronic Frontier Foundation, which represented the companies in the consolidated case, said no immediate decision was made now whether to appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court, and he called the ruling disappointing. Several major technology firms, including Microsoft and Twitter, have mounted a variety of legal challenges in recent years to U.S. government restrictions limiting what they can disclose, both to affected users and to the public, about the surveillance requests they receive. Now, I do agree that in the course of a criminal investigation, I guess you don't want people to know they're being tapped, right? But at some point, they have to be made aware. And so there's, with these gag orders, they're open-ended. They just go on and on and on. And part of the reason for transparency in I don't know, is this an opinion, Wink, or is this actually a fact? In a democratic republic, a representative democratic republic, we need to know what the hell is going on so we can make the proper decisions. And without proper oversight, we can't just live our lives thinking that people are going to do the good. Government is actually there, I think, for many reasons, because maybe not, it is because of our less than better angels coming to the fore. And isn't government supposed to be the bulwark against, the impulse to follow our less better angels? Remember when Greenspan, after the big collapse, and in his Greenspan speak in that hearing, Senate hearing, said, basically, this is what he said. I had no idea that people of our station could do those criminal activities.
Right.
I mean, we come from a station of life where we are just absolutely moral. We can't do wrong. Look at us. We're the aristocracy. We're beyond the aristocracy. We're higher than that. Our natures are pure. It's all of those people in the lower classes that succumb to the evil and trepidations of human existence in which it's a claw and a fight. We are gentlemen. We couldn't commit a crime. I was shocked when I found out that that was so. There are indeed people in our station of life that can commit crimes. Remember that? Well, I think given too much power and not enough oversight, you might get a Whitey Bulger in there and going after his enemies.
Yep.
Do we want that again? Okay, that's just me. All right. This is a little bit long here, but I'll just summarize very quickly by Natasha Geeling. Texas Observer newspaper down there in Texas. Official told them that construction's going to essentially destroy this refuge. And, now, of course, Congress is still debating funding for the billion-dollar wall. But funds could be transferred from within the DHS to pay for construction at the refuge, because who cares about half the butterfly species in North America, right? Is Chris calling us right now? Okay, maybe not. Okay, it is the Santa Ana Wildlife Refuge, $21.6 billion is the estimated price tag for the whole wall. All right. Well, we'll go over this more on Friday, so I would probably get on the horn and call a few people, even if you're not in Texas. All right, let's get to our Jim Hightower break. We'll come back, go through the Connect, Unite, Act Daily Coast community calendar, and then our discussion with Chris Reeves. You are listening to the After Show on Netroots Radio with Wicked Justice, and we will be right back.
Where are Charlie and Dave, Mrs. Koch's two mischievous boys? The Koch brothers have stayed out of the national limelight recently, but they're still trying to supplant American democracy with their little laissez-fairyland plutocracy. In fact, in late June, they held a meeting of the Koch Boys Billionaires Club, gathering about 400 other uber-wealthy rascals to plot some political hijinks for next year's elections. The club meets every year at some luxury hideaway, and its attendees have to pay $100,000 each just to get in. But participants also are expected to give generously to the brothers' goal of spending $400 million to buy a slew of Congress critters, governors, and others in 2018. This year, the group gathered in Colorado Springs at the ultra-luxe Broadmoor Hotel and Resort, owned by the brothers' billionaire pal and right-wing co-conspirator Philip Anschutz. Among the recent political triumphs that these elites celebrated in the Broadmoor's posh ballroom was the defeat this year of the Colorado tax hike to fix the state's crumbling roads. After all, who needs adequate roads when you can arrive in private jets? This attitude of the Koch's privileged cohorts explains why the public is shut out of these candid sessions. A staffer for the Koch confab hails such no-tax, no-roads policies as a renaissance of freedom. For the privileged, that is, freedom to prosper at the expense of everyone else. This is Jim Hightower saying, indeed, their agenda includes killing such working-class needs as minimum wage and Social Security, and privatizing everything from health care to public education. In fact, the ultimate intention of this self-absorbed cabal of spoiled plutocratic brats is nothing less than to abandon our nation's core democratic principle of we're all in this together. If they kill that uniting concept, they'll kill America itself.
Need an antidote to the progressive blues? Want some good news about how grassroots folks are rebelling against the corporate powers and winning? Well, here's an easy-to-swallow pill for you, the Hightower Lowdown. Hightower's monthly newsletter will give you the lowdown, even as it lifts you up. It's 4 pages a month, jam-packed with facts you can use, actions you can take, and Jim's own Texas humor, all for only $15 a year. To become a lowdowner, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
Okay, we're back.
And indeed, we are back, and thank you for sticking with us. This is the After Show with Wink and Justice. Justice here along the banks of the Rogue River and the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the West Coast. Wink is in upstate New York 21 on the East Coast. Chris Reeves is in the vast plains of flyover country. No one ever knows how expansive it is until you've actually taken a bus trip through it. Do it sometime.
Yeah.
And our crew are the ethereal creatures who reside in the cloud, whose advanced intergalactic technical abilities allow Netroots Radio and the Spy Extension, the After Show, to span the globe, the solar system, and beyond. Yep. Let's see. Today's Connect, Unite, Act Daily Coast community calendar is facilitated by the great cartoonist Eric Lewis. And he opens up his diary about eBay window shopping. You know, I actually window shop, but I don't go to eBay. I suppose I should.
I'm not much of an eBay shopper myself.
Yeah, you know, I was never a big one to go to auctions and you know, things like that. And I don't know. I like to shop for things. I have to even tell you, like garage sales. It took me a while to like get my head around going to garage sales.
Right.
Because I don't know. There's well, I guess one person's junk is another person's treasure, and I don't know, all look like junk to me.
Yep.
I had enough stuff in my own garage to keep me, you know, occupied, shall we say. Wow. Okay, so let's see. Denver Cossacks will be meeting up for Saturday of this month, which is July 22nd. For their Caffeinating Liberally meetup at Common Grounds Coffee Shop at 44th and Vallejo from 9 to noonish. And I'm presuming they're still at the table by the piano unless a bunch of Democrats that unregistered said that they want the table. Snowflakes. That's what they are. And then, of course, Virginia Cossacks, remember, Dr. Lori and Gordon 224 invite you to a meetup at the picturesque Shenandoah Valley of the picturesque Shenandoah Valley, and they're at Dr. Lori's farm, Riverbank. Boy, these photographs they have here are just stunning. Saturday, July 22nd, 2 p.m., and since apparently the center of the universe is like around the D.C. area, Dr. Lori's place is close to everything.
Oh, there you go.
All right, so Cosmail Dr. Lori, if you're Virginia Cossack and would like to attend, and some have. Netroots Nation, Daily Coast Cheers and Jeers annual dinner, Wednesday, August 9th, 5:30 p.m., White Oak Kitchen and Cocktails, 270 Peach Tree Street in Atlanta, of course. Cosmail Navajo to RSVP a seat at that table. And I'm telling you, they need to go in there and edit that announcement. It's tables.
Yeah.
You're not sitting 110 plus maybes. Oh, and of course, I should mention real quick here, the Ask Me Anything about Daily Coes. It will be Thursday afternoon, August 10th, 2:30 p.m. in the Piedmont Room. And the session's going to be led by Nita Lind, of course, Navajo. And there's a slew of people going through. I don't see you there, Chris, but you have a conference room scheduled for something also. That what can you remind us about that?
Repeat that. You broke there for a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just mentioning about the Ask Me Anything Daily Coes caucus group having their a meeting in the Piedmont Room during Netroots Nation, and then you're part of a group that's having a meeting in one of the rooms. I don't know if it's at the same time, but I remember you mentioning something about that. So I just didn't see your name on the list of people here. So
it's not at the same time. In fact, we just spent the week juggling around all of our panels to make sure none of us conflict with each other, which was a whole whole dance of making sure things work out. But no, I will be on a panel, the Nuts and Bolts panel. This will be the third time we've done this at Netroots Nation. It is a panel talking about what we know about winning races and effective strategies for races and the basics of getting involved. This year it will be moderated by Christine Pelosi, We will have, which is kind of nice, we will have local candidates. Like Tamara Shealy will be she's a local Senate candidate in Georgia who will attend. Aftab Purval, who is a candidate for U.S. House in Ohio, will be on our panel, and we may have a special guest. So if those aren't big enough, we still have another that is a work in progress. So that will be a great panel for people to attend. This has been a panel that's been a lot of fun. There's a lot of willingness on us to stay after. We do some Q&A. I think people will find it, it'll be a blast.
One of the infrastructure problems that I always experience is just trying to get to these different panels and get some sort of recording of it, because not all panels are, picked up by C-SPAN or the Netroots Nation media crew. So right. I always wish that we could go back and be able to, for those of us who couldn't make every panel, to be able to see them. But that's great. Okay, so I should close this part up. So that was your Connect Unite Act Daily Coast community calendar for the 18th of July. All right, so now we are officially speaking with Kris. And Kris, you know what? Since we're speaking about nuts and bolts just obliquely here, and I wasn't going to go over nuts and bolts so much, but I actually think that what I have in mind kind of jumps ahead in the order of what we were going to speak about. Now, Jerry Moran became a no vote, or on the treason care, Trump care.
Yep.
And I had two links there about closing rural hospitals as part of that, but I want to speak very briefly, since you invoked Christine Pelosi, who of course is the daughter of Nancy Pelosi. And it struck me that there's a lot of Pelosi haters out there. I know that we need to get new blood, into the party or into every aspect of our life. But it just resonated with me about how difficult it was for Nancy Pelosi to whip those votes together. And the Pelosi haters who, to me, seemed like they didn't care about what it takes to count votes. And this defeat, this resounding no to to Trump care, I think, is not just the way that Obamacare was constructed, but the way that Nancy Pelosi got it through. I mean, am I being too glorifying of her achievements, or?
No, look, the one thing that we've really seen with the Trump care, fiasco that Republicans foisted is Republicans just needed to keep their own people in line. They had the votes, but Mitch McConnell has run his group in such a way that he had too many people who didn't have faith in the outcome. Well, if you take away everything else, the one thing that you can say about Nancy Pelosi is that the members of her caucus may have, there are some of them who may want new blood and those kind of things, but not a one of them that I know of will ever say Nancy Pelosi made us walk the plank for something that we were not prepared to do. Right. And that didn't happen. Or I should say made us, walk when it wasn't something that, was for the good of the long term of the party. Now, there are going to be times where you take hard votes, and it may even cost you seats. But if you can say to yourself, hey, we did this job because this is what we wanted, see maybe the ACA and a few others, then you can go back and say to people, okay, well, this is why we did it. This is, it's something that helps us later, et cetera, et cetera. And she's very good at that, very good at that. And I think that's, something to be, to keep in mind. I also think one thing that's true is too many people kept coming out and saying, well, she gets attacked by Republicans and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And if we replace her, then, and I thought to myself, if you replace her, the attacks will still happen. They'll just happen on whoever the new person we pick is, number one. And number two, frankly, I'm not saying this is ideal, and she may grit her teeth at this, but there are going to be a lot of Democrats who run in blue district in not blue districts this year, who are going to come out and say, "Oh well, I'm running for U.S. House. I know this is a Republican district. Well, guess what? I'm not a vote for Nancy Pelosi if I win." Because that's easier for them. They'll be able to do that. Their district will be okay with it. It'll help them in their district. Whereas if we put in some new person, then nobody knows who that person is in time, and they can't say, well, we replaced Nancy, but this guy is also not good, or this woman is also not. Then it's a problem. You've got to be able to campaign on the idea of you're different, but not everything is wrong. And so I think having her there right now is, there's benefits both ways, and I think there are too many people who get whipped up into, let's change everything. And I also think, some of that is being milked by people who are not liberal progressives.
Yeah.
Some of them are conservatives, some of them are trolls who are just pushing, ideas into the liberal progressive blogosphere to kind of feed off of people who are unhappy.
Let's speak about the Jerry Moran dynamic, because, this is more, we speak about Nancy Pelosi, whipping the votes in her own caucus, but how is it possible that a Republican in a red state would become a no vote on this healthcare bill? And you made a salient point, is that because the people in Kansas and a lot of progressives told him so.
Right. I've already heard from several of the people today who were like, oh, well, don't think activism was the big reason for Jerry Moran. He did it on his own and whatever. And I think there's some truth to that. But I also think that the activism certainly didn't hurt. And having people show up and fill his town halls 3 separate times, and the 3 that he held, and tell him, hey, this is what's going to happen to rural hospitals. We've heard back from his staff who has told us that the KHA, which is Kansas Hospital Association, and the Kansas members of the Kansas Department for Aging and those groups who showed up at every one of those town halls and said, hey, the impact of this is going to be bad, was certainly something that he brought up when he went back to D.C. Now, was that the deciding reason, or was he always a no? Maybe he was always a no. But and good for him if he was. But if he was or wasn't, the fact that so many Kansans showed up at those events certainly helped. And more than that, if you want to keep activism active, if the whole goal of keeping things going is to say, hey, here's where we go, you have to reward the activists. You have to tell them that, what they did in Palco, Kansas, and Sublette, Kansas, and Liberal, Kansas had purpose, that there was a tangible benefit to this. You can't just tell them, oh, well, this was, he was going to do it. It didn't matter whether you showed up or not, because, one, there's no reason to believe that. And two, if they feel as though they had an impact, they're more likely to continue to participate. So why not tell them you had impact? Because it's true. I mean, and so I kind of look at it like, let's celebrate what we got and keep working to get more.
Now things aren't so polarized. I mean, Kansan neighbors will speak with Kansan neighbors regardless of party affiliation. I mean, things aren't so much of a schism, is there? I mean, is it possible that, because it's hard for me to wrap my head around a Kansan conservative losing their health care, telling Jerry Moran, well, we want to get rid of Obamacare so we can stick it to Nancy Pelosi. I don't care if I lose it. I just get to stick it to Nancy Pelosi. I mean, I know you're not privy to, the Republican town halls. Ostensibly, they're not Republican or Democrat. They're just, or Democratic, they're town halls. But Was that an argument? I mean, did you see any of that argument?
No,
Like, we
no,
just want to
well-
stick it to the black guy, and I don't care if I lose my health care. I mean, when it
No,
gets down to the nuts
actually,
and bolts, are people that ideological in Kansas?
No, and in fact, in every single town hall he held, every single one, there was, in Palco, there was not a single voice who spoke up in favor of the Republican plan. In, I'm trying to think of where else we go. In Sublet, there wasn't anybody who spoke up in favor of the Republican plan. In Liberal, there wasn't anybody. So there wasn't a single person. And those rooms had a lot of conservatives in them. There wasn't a single person who came out and was like, oh, the Republican plan is really what I want. When you're faced with your own health care decisions, the idea of it screwing over people you don't like, and that's good, that doesn't go anywhere. That doesn't matter if you also get screwed. And I think people got it really loud and clear, and were very concerned. The part that Republicans haven't figured out with their plan, and that is a real issue with everything, and it's a real issue with everything, not because of ACA or any of that, but just because the nature of the country, tax base, and division, is that nobody is sure what the heck to do about rural access, access to where there's not a lot of people, which is just dying. But the one thing that they all know is, hey, you move ahead with this, and there are going to be hospitals that rapid fire close because they will not be able to hold together. Everybody talks about, I've heard from Trump supporters who say, well, you've got some marketplaces where there's only one insurance provider. And I think to myself, yeah, I've got areas of the state where I can go 100 miles and there's only one hospital. So, it doesn't always work that way. And that's the problem that everybody's trying to figure out, is how do they do that? But the one thing Moran figured out very quickly is the one for sure way to do that, and something that would actually potentially cost him and others real problems in 6 years, or during his reelection 2022, is if hospitals start closing, because then a whole lot of people are in real trouble.
And that results in votes, doesn't it?
Right.
Votes for or against whatever your position is on this.
Right.
And that's tangible.
It results in two things. What happens, and what Republicans can see happening, is as this breaks up the rural environments, their population dwindles. Well, what happens when the population dwindles? They end up with fewer House members. They end up with fewer electoral votes, because in a census it goes down. And that's part of, by the way, you'll see a lot of people tweeting, one of the sub-stories I wish was a little bit more above the fold is save the census, because there are people concerned about the fact that, we can see it. We can tangibly see the population drops in some of these states, and as comparison to others. And we know that done right, you're going to see a state like Colorado gain electoral votes. You'll see some other states gain electoral votes, but you're going to see some states lose. And done wrong, states with lower population will keep theirs because there wasn't proper counting. And so it is something that conservatives are worried about. They can see the tea leaves. But if you're in western Kansas, let's say, and the hospitals start disappearing, where do you go?
Right.
You go to Colorado.
Wow.
And then what happens? Well, then all of a sudden Kansas loses a congressperson. And the writing is on the wall, and 2020 is right around the corner.
I'm curious, you mentioned some number crunching, and one of the things that I see happening is, edicts, handed down by party leaders. I'd be curious to see how many yes and no votes correspond with how many Republicans held town halls. And I know that Mitch McConnell, I don't think he's held one. And so then it makes me wonder where does the power in our activism lie? Is it in calling and sending letters, or actually showing up and physically facing our representatives? Is it all of it? So and then to further, or to finish up the point, is that then I wonder if Mitch McConnell and other leaders are going to tell their caucus, like, hold less town halls. That way, ignorance is bliss, I guess.
Right. And I think that's going to be hard to know until we get to the end and we just say, okay, this is what we've got. I will tell you that town halls have seemingly been the most effective way to really address it. And the reason is because your letters and those, they do make an impact. But in a town hall, people are walking away with video of senators and representatives responding to what's being said. And we've had multiple instances of that going viral, or senators or representatives who aren't prepared.
Right.
And it's the first time that I can remember. I've went to town halls and recorded them for years now, and I would put them online, and every so often you would get people involved, and people would say dumb things, and it would occasionally become something. But now people are focused on it. You've got a lot more of the Democratic base who in the past was kind of, well, Obama's in office, things are okay, what do we care? That are now listening to their representatives and going, my goodness, this guy is, this man or woman is, they aren't prepared to do the job. How the heck are they still in office?
Right.
And that's...
Also, I think the optics of zip tying, for instance, this didn't happen, but when it does, when they zip tie like the little lobbyists, the kids who are going to suffer terribly if, healthcare is stopped for them. The optics are bad outside of even a Republican representative who isn't in his office.
Right.
So,
right.
Well, let's talk in a few minutes that we have left about Kris Kobach. In less than a week, first of all, he loses his court case about, how to inform Kansas voters about how to vote. And then I think the day of or the day after, he comes out and lies again about what you need to be able to vote. And then a leaked email, this was just reported on Friday and making the rounds more today, that he's essentially been in
voter suppressing.
Yeah, and trying to gut the National Voter Registration Act.
Yeah.
He's your guy. Let's talk about him in the minutes that we have left.
So I have said repeatedly that Kris Kobach is the most dangerous politician in America. And the reason why I say that is because he is one of the lead drafters for ALEC. He has written legislation in multiple states, including SB 1070 in Arizona, the renters' rights in Nebraska, legislation for Pennsylvania, Ohio. He has also helped represent other states in court or written briefs for them in regards to their practices, which influenced placement of voting locations in Ohio, North Carolina, and elsewhere. He also founded this little thing called Crosscheck, which influences huge numbers of states. And Kris Kobach's entire MO is, how does he make it difficult for people to vote? He talks all the time about, well, we've got to protect the vote, because if there's even one, vote that shouldn't be there, it unbalances the whole system. Well, in order to get that supposed one vote that he thinks unbalances the system, he's willing to throw out hundreds of legitimate votes, which shows that the whole point is really garbage. It's really on, I'm going to make it where voting is a privilege and not a right. I want to make it where people who vote do so because they have the time, the money, and resources, and they can follow through on this, whereas basically poor people or people who aren't easy access to go vote don't vote. And his practice of doing that is really troublesome, and the Trump administration basically putting him in charge of a voter rights group and him, having now this email reveal that his whole plan is to make it difficult to vote, and to gut the NDRA, which is the National Voter Rights Act, should be high priority for us to do everything we can to stop. Because if you change the way people vote, then the outcome is, you can start predetermining the outcome. And that's not just bad for Democrats. That's bad for democracy. If you do that, then, what do you have? You just have predetermined outcomes by people who can afford to participate.
He's also looking for higher office, isn't he? I think he's looking for the presidency.
He has announced he is going to run for governor in 2018. But I can tell you that's a stepping stone. Kobach has been, he is a darling, who there are a lot of big money Republicans who see the future track for him as Kris Kobach president. And I say this openly, if we let him become governor, we are going to regret it in ways we don't understand, because his entire pitch is so deadly to what we're trying to do that we will end up with, it will be bad. There was a joke made that I don't think was too hyperbolic, where they said, now you know what it was like during the beer hall push, when people were like, oh, how do you elect this guy? Well, I'm not saying in any way that Kobach is calling for, mass extermination, none of that stuff.
Right. But the brown shirt tactics are still there.
But he is appealing to the same,
right,
argument. The same other people are the problem.
Right.
And the problem that Kobach really has is that some of the people who listen to that argument are not as, and I think he's, way out there, but some of the people who listen to that argument are terrible, terrible people who do take it way, way too far. And if you doubt that, we had a bombing attempt in Kansas on refugees. We've had vandalism. We had an Indian engineer killed in Kansas City. Sometimes you yell fire in a room, you yell the problem is other people, and you don't know how the outcome is going to go.
That's right. Well, thank you, Chris. I wanted to end up by mentioning that I've been waiting in terms of cross-check. Maybe this has already happened and you've been able to overcome it, but suppressing your vote because they show that Chris Reeves in another state was Superman and he's dead. So you can't vote. So.
Yeah.
I've been worried about that. So that's the problem with cross-check. So,
exactly.
All right. Well, we'll pick this up next week, and thank you for today.
Yes.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right, folks. We better bug out of here. We're at the end of our broadcast, period, little buffer zone here. And we'll have Lottie Kessner's Before You Are coming up before Hartman, about 6 minutes after the hour. Randy Rhodes, of course, comes up at 1 p.m. on the West Coast, 4 p.m. on the East Coast. There's fantastic content all the way around the clock, 24/7, 365. Stay listening to Netroots Radio. Why? Well, because who loves you, baby? Okay, Wink. I'll see you on the other side.
All right. Row.